Hello, hello, and welcome back to my channel. What do I have here? Well, I have a bin box absolutely overflowing with cardboard of all sorts, and there's a lot of tissue boxes and cereal box and packaging of various kinds and some cardboard offcuts and some, oh goodness, well, just, various things I've been collecting now for 3 years. I've got a lot of stuff. And I decided it was time to either use it up or throw some of it away, and I needed to find out what it was that I wanted to use it for. So let me put this down. So one of the things that I decided I've seen a couple of videos on using tissue boxes. And they do have these wonderful cutout windows. So I thought, well, I've never done one before and I didn't watch a video again. So I went, well, how about if I just go ahead and start making one? And so I did. And I just wanted to play around with it without the, the camera on. Let's just say that. It was a time taker. But this is a nice journal. It is pretty. It's sturdy. I mean, it is a box, but it's also doubled up. It's tripled up in most cases. So let me go ahead and flip through this journal, and you can see it, and I'll give you some ideas of what it was I was doing with it. And I definitely started with this box here. So let's go ahead and let me talk you through it a little bit. And maybe you might want to try a tissue box. It actually makes a very nice journal. And I went with the elastic. And, well, let's just go through it and let's see. So, first of all, of course, I had to take it apart. And you take it apart, along here. And it's good to be really careful. But usually they separate pretty easily. And so then you have all this. But then looking at this big wide space, well, I don't want a spine like that. So I simply measured it so that it would be, I think what I did, yeah, I cut it at 1.5 from this side over, 1.5, and it's 3.5, so I went 1.5 this way. So I was removing a 1/2 inch from the middle essentially. And then glued it back together again with a strong glue. And in this case I did use this 3-in-1 for a lot of this assembly because it's so strong and it dries fast. So that was a key point I wanted to make. The other thing that I did that you can't really see is that I utilized all of these nice edges. I just took my bone folder and I really burnished them down all of the way around, and then I trimmed them off so that it wouldn't overlap the window. So that is easily accomplished just by tracing. But instead of just cutting that out, all I did was cut straight across so that I had a little flap. Did the same thing over here. You can see exactly where you want to cut just by drawing a line. But I cut inside of that line. And then on the corners, I did a simple miter and cut like that. And what that produces is a very nice corner. You have nothing overlapping. And I found that to be very important, is nothing overlapping. And then we had this offcut, which came in handy for reinforcing this area, and of course, let's see. Oh yes, right. So this is the spine. So this got overlapped, And then I had one of these edges turned over to reinforce the overlap, so I just had to cut off a little bit there. So anyway, it was just a lot of fiddly sort of figuring out, and yes, and I folded that up and I cut off some of the excess. I folded that over and burnished it down, and then I could put something on top of it. So if you want to work with a tissue box, it's kind of tedious and you kind of fiddle around because a lot of our openings on tissue boxes are ovals and that sort of thing. But you can do it, and it does make a very sturdy cover. So you can kind of see a little bit of that fold over stuff. There's a little bit of, you can see that there is a miter over here. And then I found some scrapbook paper that was more of a cardstock weight. And then what I did here is I glued this image to the inside here, and this is a window pocket. So that could be something completely different, but that I found this in a shrubbery book. So that worked very well. And let's see. On the back, I didn't want this to be too lumpy for writing. So on the back, I made a big gusseted pocket. So there's a good amount of space in there. So a lot of cardstock, a lot of kind of sectioning and putting different layers on. And I didn't want the plain cardboard to show, so I mixed up a little dash of acrylic paint, some white and some blue that I had on hand, and got a pretty good match to the tissue box. I was pleasantly surprised. It was super, super easy. These little booklets are the offcuts of folding regular 8.5 by 11 paper in half this way and cutting off 3 inches. So that was easy. And so it just seemed like a good idea to turn those into little booklets. And I just glued a piece of the cardstock to the back page to give it a little more strength. And wound up with 2 of them. And so that's one of the reasons I made this gusseted pocket this size, is so it could hold those 2 little notebooks, because they're a little fat to go somewhere inside of here. Now, as far as the pages are concerned, I didn't want this to become gator-mouthed or anything like that. I wanted them to be just colorful. I had just made the lemon, lime, and orange journal, the citrus journal, and this box kind of popped out to me because I kind of had that orange and yellow green color scheme going in my head, and I still had some of the papers out. So that's why this one became the project. So I went ahead and I put together, and I got out some scrapbook paper, some of the thin kind. Some of my Easter egg dyed papers, coloring book page, more Easter egg dye. And I decided it would be nice to have at least one that had some pockets on it. And I have a little kit that goes with this journal. So just, some of the excess offcuts, a little bit of that, just a couple of journaling cards, simple things. But it came out real pretty this way. And these are the last little offcuts from the tissue box. Now these could become shortened up a little bit and become little pockets here or somewhere else in the journal. But I've kind of moved into occasionally wanting to just leave some of that fun stuff for the person who becomes the writer and scrapbooker of this journal. and a couple of my journals. So it just makes it a little extra, little bits and pieces to play with. Now I did give it an elastic binding, and I thought that would be a good idea with this one. And one of the reasons I cut this from 11 inches down to 8 inches was so that I could put the eyelets in. And that way it was really just a perfect size for this tissue box. And of course that means that any of these pages can be taken out and put back in. And I think that's ideal for this particular hard cover, is to have this, the elastic. So it came out very, very nice, and I'm happy with it. As simple. It's pretty, it's simple, it's perfect for somebody to write in. And I'm going to pop an envelope in here, and it has some more bits and pieces. And the envelope actually could become a page in this journal. So again, it's part of the kit that goes with this journal as something to add to the playfulness for whoever owns the journal. And this, as of this filming, it's available in my Etsy shop. And of course this is a little piece of acetate. I glued that in first, and then I glued in the piece of cardstock. So it's just a playful thing that if you want to use a tissue box for this, it wasn't hard. It was just time-taking, and I had to work through the thought process. And this was a biggie, wanting to keep all of these fold overs and really burnish them down and fold them over and not have any overlaps. So I had a little bit of an overlap back here because this one was so short. But on this part, these just mitered perfectly. And then that created the rigidity in the front that made it very nice, and using an offcut to reinforce the spine even more. And that worked well, and it made it ideal for the eyelets and the elastic. So this is what I used, and this is what it became. And well, I hope there's a few tips for you in there. If you would really like to see a tutorial, hey, I'll be happy to do it. It would go a lot faster now because I know what I'm doing. So yeah, I've got that bin full of boxes and cardboard and scraps, and I want to start using up this volume of stuff that I have been accumulating. So this one is a very clean journal, but I also have a lot of junky stuff. So I definitely want to do a few that are more of the organic, junky. Yeah, but this one's sweet. I'm just going to leave this one as is. And I hope you got a few ideas from it. And thank you so much for watching. So who knows what I'll do next. All right. Have fun. Bye for now.